Thank you so much, Peter, for taking the time to do this. Really excited to have you with us, and really excited about Adyen's plans to expand into the Middle East finally. Starting with the first question, why Middle East and why now?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. If you look how Adyen opens up new countries, what we always have done is in discussion with our merchants, what's the next region where they're going, and we use that as input, and that's how we have been growing. And what's very important for us is not to spread ourselves out too thinly. So we would have liked to be there in the region maybe a couple of years ago, but we also want to have proper resource and be able to do things to execute in the right way. So if you see what Adyen has been opening, where we have been opening in, for example, Canada, we have been opening in Japan, we've been opening in India, um, and there is a certain you cannot do everything at the same time, and there's always a
Absolutely.
slight arbitrary element in there. The region is growing really quickly, so it is interesting for us to be there and important. So that's why we're there, and now we feel we have enough resource to also execute it in a strong way.
Right. And what is it about the Middle East that you're particularly excited about as a company?
So on number one is our existing merchants. We find it an important region, but also our existing merchants. So it's always the thought line there. If we service them in many regions, do you also, if they say this is now the region that we are expanding in the Middle East, can we do that with you? Are you going to say no? Or are you going to say yes, of course? So that's important. And then typically what you see if we're in a region, then after that, then phase one is always for our existing merchants. And then typically what you see is that then after that we attract other merchants, local merchants that want to use us, or other international merchants that want to use us to move into the region.
Right. Now, Adyen moving into the Middle East is obviously a big news for the entire region. It is one of the biggest payments companies in the world, and them moving into the region is obviously going to have a significant impact. There are some other players, also international players, that have been eyeing Middle East and are trying to expand into the region. Stripe being one of them, but it focuses obviously on smaller enterprises and startups. Adyen has a different kind of clients that it goes after, and checkout is already operating in the region. What do you make of, and obviously a lot of local players as well, regional players as well. What do you make of the competition in the Middle East? I mean, you must have studied the market before expanding here. So what do you make of that?
The market is innovating. There you see, similar to other regions in the world, you see the move to cashless. You see online shopping surging. You see many payment methods which are available in certain countries in the region. So there's a diversity of payment methods, and all those things are the things that we know very well. And given how fast the region is also economically growing, um, especially with e-commerce growing, it means that it's interesting, and it's not so much between us or the competitors. The market is growing, and we all have our special group of merchants that we're particularly attractive to, and ultimately, Adyen is interested in making sure that our merchants can can move into any region in the world with us, a region of significance. And of course, the Middle East you cannot leave out. For us, it's just we started in Europe. That's where the company was founded. Then we went to the US. But of course, to be in all important economic regions was always the plan. And it's just a matter of how much can you do at the same time. And it's not so much related to is there a competitor, or are the competitors dropping the ball and therefore we can be there. The market is big enough, so it's okay if they're competitors. We are very good at the larger international company, but you always see that in later stages when we're in the market, you see also other companies, sometimes smaller companies or companies which are from the region selling international or domestically, also onboarding with us.
Right. And in terms of expansion to the Middle East, you're starting with 6 countries, opening an office in Dubai. What are your future expansion plans for the region, and how do you aim to develop the payments ecosystem in the region? Because there are a lot of people who have had, complaints about how banks operate here, and how, sometimes the merchants trying to go online have to struggle with the infrastructure issues that some of the players have here. So how do you plan to develop the payment ecosystem, especially in the Middle East,
Yeah,
considering it being your latest market?
yeah. So our customer is the merchant. So we fully focus on merchants, and we don't offer services to consumers. That does not mean that consumers do not notice when we're there, because we put a lot of resource into making that payment system run really smoothly. And that can mean implementing local payment methods, but also it can mean working with those local payment methods to get them to a higher operational level, and making sure therefore that payments run smoother. What we don't do is introduce payment methods ourselves, because we feel we should be totally focused on what the merchant wants, and they are our customer. And other companies make different choices there. For example, PayPal also has the wallet, so you can become a merchant with PayPal, but they also interact with your consumer. We made a different choice. We say we fully focus on the merchant. And then if you say, what were further, do you plan to have more offices, or what's the next step? We really like the step-by-step approach, and not having a longer where we say this is the route which we'll walk, because we like to use the insights that we have. We are still we are only 1,400 people. We're an agile company, so we can adjust to the markets. So this is our first step, but of course, other steps will follow.
Right. Thank you so much, Peter. Just one last question. You founded Adyen in 2006. You've turned it into, obviously, with the help of the team executives and the investors, partners, and the merchants, obviously, you've turned it into a $50 billion company. What would be one piece of advice that you would share with young entrepreneurs who are just starting their companies?
Oh, well, that's there are quite a few things which I would advise. What has helped us a lot is that we always have tried to keep things very, very simple. And we have had always a simple structure with our investors. We have simple structures with so within the company. And what I mean by that is, for example, our travel policy is no blush. So we don't have a travel policy. You fly economy internationally. You fly economy plus if it's intercontinental, and then what you can spend, just use common sense. Um, and think about no blush. If you are able to explain to everyone why you spend that money without blushing, that's sort of the test you have for yourself. So that's very simple. So we don't have people playing our cost system. With investors, we had common shares. So we don't have endless negotiations about certain conditions. But also with our merchants, we charge um, interchange plus. So we charge cost price plus. So you can see what we charge you. So if CFOs of our merchants are talking together, we feel that what we price is fair. And if you are way bigger, you probably have a lower pricing, but we don't try to overcharge. We want a fair income for everything we do. So if you make your credo be really simple, it saves you a lot of time. And it's not something that you just do with your merchants, or just with your employees, or just with your investors. We did that throughout the company, and I have the feeling that saved us a lot of time. So if I would start a company again, I would put a conscious effort into keeping things very, very simple.
Right. That's brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Peter, once again for joining us for this quick interview, and welcome to the Middle East.
Thank you so much for having us.